G'day, it's Giumelli here from Kondinin Group, and another workshop tip for you from Hare & Forbes Machinery Warehouse. Look, today thought we might do something on welding. We're not actually going to do any welding. I want to talk about a couple of little tips and techniques that can get the best out of your weld without actually having to learn anything or to practice your skills. Really basic stuff. The first thing, get comfortable when you weld. With MIG welding, get a hand on the nozzle. You're traveling in the push direction. You lean down on your welding table if you have to. Make sure you get a couple of points of stability. Another way is to get a hip against the table and lean, so you've got that stability rather than standing there trying to run a steady weld. I mean, that applies for stick welding as well. Get comfortable. Even if you have to grab a chair, and you probably want a good leather apron before you do this, sit down and weld. You'll be surprised at what a difference that makes. Next thing is your welding helmet. Most of you will probably be using automatic helmets these days. Visibility is one of the best things you can do for welding. So keep your helmet clean, replace the plastic shield if you have to. Back of your helmet gets pretty dusty. Make sure you give yourself every opportunity to see the weld properly. Adjust your shade too. So, if you're only doing light welding, start at 11. Work up for heavier current. So, go up to say 13 if you're doing some big welding. Or if you're welding something like stainless steel, which is quite shiny, you'll need a darker shade then. Something very simple, check the condition of your leads. You'd be surprised at how frayed your earth leads and electrode leads can become. So every now and again, have a bit of a look. Also where they attach the machine. I mean, this one's pretty shabby here, so might be worth replacing that. On the subject of DC welders, because most of us are using DC welding units now, these little inverters are DC, not AC. So you've got a choice in how you hook up your electrode and your earth clamp. So for the majority of your welding, you want to select electrode positive down onto the positive lead there. That's pretty important, and that'll give you the best welding situation for the majority of what you're going to use one of these for. With your MIG welder, if you're going for a flux core wire, so that's a wire where you don't use gas, then you want a positive earth. And if you're using a MIG welder with solid wire and with gas, then you want a negative earth. So important to get those ones around the right way. MIG welding with solid wire, of course, you're going to need gas. And a good starting point for your gas flow rate is about 12 litres per minute. You can probably tweak that down a little bit inside. Outside, if it's a bit windy, you're going to want to actually wind that up a little bit. It's important that if you've got windy conditions, you've got a little bit more gas flow rate to keep that gas shroud around your welding. If you're doing welding that's delicate or sort of lower current, you can find the thick welding gloves to be a little bit cumbersome, say like with TIG welding or gas welding. Why not put the thick welding glove away and get something that's a little bit thinner, but something that will protect you as well, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to manipulate things if you've got thinner gloves. And cleaning your welding surfaces before you're welding is pretty important. The old wire brush is pretty handy. I've got a couple of old cordless grinders that I don't really use for good stuff anymore, and I find them really quite handy for welding. So I've got one with a grinding disc on it or a flap disc, another one with a twisted cut wire brush. Fantastic just to grab those and give things a quick clean up before you weld. Makes a big difference. And don't neglect your MIG torch, because bits do wear out. The tip wears, that needs replacement. Also make sure you've got the right size tip for the wire that you're using. And look, I suppose the last tip is get a piece of scrap metal the same size as what you're welding and use that to get your settings right before you start on the job properly. And look, I hope those tips help you get the best out of your welding.